We have a bit of an interesting mix of phones to compare today. We have the Galaxy S25 Edge, which is super light, only weighing 163 grams. Then we have the Galaxy S25 Ultra, the most popular Android flagship phone. I also added the OnePlus 13 to the mix, since this one, in my opinion, is the best flagship phone on a budget. And finally, I added the vivo X200 Ultra, the exact opposite of the S25 Edge, with a big camera bump and a 6000 mAh battery. Emo, this is Tecmo, and today I'm going to compare the performance, camera, and battery life of the phones on 5G. Before we start though, I did a quick bench test on the Galaxy S25 Edge since I was very curious whether it would break because the phone is so thin. After putting a lot of pressure on it, on the point that my fingers start to hurt, the phone did not bend, which is great news. I put all phones to the same brightness using a lux meter, connected them to the same 5G and Wi-Fi network. I'm also running the app that I wrote to measure battery life and temperature during the test. For the first test, I kept the Wi-Fi on and played the YouTube live stream. The OnePlus and vivo X200 Ultra displays are 6.8 inches and they are both 12 bits, which means you get a better color range on them. Both Galaxy phones are still using an 8-bit panel. The S25 Edge is smaller, being 6.7 inches, while the S25 Ultra is 6.9 inches. Also, the S25 Ultra screen has anti-reflective properties. After playing 2 hours of YouTube, the OnePlus has 93%, the Vivo has 97%, the Galaxy Edge has 93%, and the Galaxy Ultra has 91% battery left. But these numbers are not accurate, so don't put too much attention on how much battery is depleted in each section. Then I connected all phones to 5G and disconnected the Wi-Fi to do the same test. Generally, 5G or any mobile connection consumes more battery since the modem simply needs to work harder to find the signal. Also, in the case of 5G, the modem has to work extra hard to connect to multiple antennas. Here, all phones are using the same modem from Qualcomm, since they are all equipped with the Snapdragon 8 Elite. After playing YouTube on 5G for 2 hours, now the Vivo has a comfortable lead, and the S25 Edge is lower than the S25 Ultra, which was predictable. I then turned off the screens, went to sleep, and put the phones on 5G and on standby. When I woke up, the OnePlus had 79%, the Vivo had 84%, and the Samsung Edge and Samsung Ultra had 73% battery left. All phones are using the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, with the difference that the S25 Edge and the S25 Ultra are using a custom-made version for Galaxy phones with a higher clock rate. Also, since the S25 Edge footprint is smaller, it is likely that it will get hot sooner than the rest. So for continuous performance, it is going to have a disadvantage. I ran the Geekbench test to test the CPU performance of the phones. Here, they all perform very similarly, but surprisingly, the S25 Edge got the highest score. At the same time, it also got significantly hotter than the rest of the phones, 5 degrees hotter to be exact. To test the performance of the graphic unit, I ran the Wildlife Extreme test, which is a 1-minute loop simulating 3D gaming. The phones here also got similar scores, with the only exception being the S25 Edge, which scored below 600. In terms of temperature, the OnePlus, Vivo, and Galaxy Ultra all stayed under 35 degrees Celsius, while the S25 Edge reached 6 degrees hotter at 41 degrees Celsius, which is 105 Fahrenheit. In practical terms, it means you probably shouldn't play games extensively or with high settings on this phone, otherwise you're going to be toasted, even though the raw performance is there. To continue the battery test, I put all phones to record the video with a selfie camera at 4K and 30 frames per second. All 4 phones can take 8K videos. The Vivo and Galaxies can take 4K up to 120 frames per second, but the OnePlus can only do up to 60 frames per second. By the time I finished this part of the test, the OnePlus was at 56%, the Vivo at 61%, the Galaxy Edge at 37%, and the Galaxy Ultra at 43%. It is a bit strange to me that the S25 Ultra is not doing that great. Also, this is not my personal phone, I only used the S25 Ultra for testing. I then turned the screen off and decided to head out to the city center of Vienna to take pictures and videos. The camera setups of these phones are a bit different. The Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge has an ultra-wide and a wide lens. The S25 Ultra has an ultra-wide, a wide, and a telephoto lens. Actually, two telephoto lenses. The OnePlus 13 has an ultrawide, a wide, and a telephoto lens. And finally, the vivo X200 Ultra has an ultra-wide camera with a sensor as large as its main lens, a 35mm lens, which is a tighter focal length than the normal 24mm lens on other phones, and a large telephoto lens, which arguably is one of the best, if not the best, telephoto lenses on the market. For ultra-wide shots, all of them are doing a decent job, but the vivo X200 Ultra is keeping and retaining much more detail with the large sensor it has. The OnePlus has distinct colors with some orange tint. The Vivo's colors and exposure are very accurate and the image is more detailed. Both Galaxies are performing similarly despite the fact that in theory, the S25 Ultra should have a better ultrawide lens. When it comes to the video, the OnePlus quality is not great. The footage is contrasty and noisy. The Vivo footage is the best here, packing tons of detail. On the S25 Edge, there is a haze on the camera, and I experienced the same issue with another unit. The video quality on the ultra-wide lens is lacking. The S25 Ultra is the second best here after the Vivo. With the main lens, the OnePlus has this unique Hasselblad magenta tone picture. The Vivo picture is nice, and the framing is tight since it is 35mm instead of 24mm. The pictures on the Samsung Edge and Ultra looks very similar. All of these phones have a relatively similar main sensor size, which means in terms of quality in low light, you get similar results. Of course, the color science differs. The OnePlus has a bit of an orange tone to the pictures. Vivo with its natural mode creates the most natural colors, especially if you look at the salt container and the color of the wood, and Galaxy phones are a bit more vivid. It is also worth mentioning that both Galaxy S25 Edge and Ultra are using the same sensor, just with a slight adjustment to the lens on the S25 Edge to make it fit. The same goes for video with the main lens. They are nearly close to each other. One thing is that I prefer the focal lens on the vivo X200 Ultra since it is simply more natural and gives more accurate proportions. For 6x zoom, the OnePlus 13 is doing great and punching above its weight. The Vivo is of course doing wonders and the details are insane. The S25 Edge is doing better than I expected, considering it does not have a telephoto lens, and the S25 Ultra is also doing a decent job. The same goes for the video at 6x zoom. The OnePlus 13 is decent, but it's not comparable to the quality of the vivo X200 Ultra. The S25 Edge is barely hanging on, the footage is very noisy, and it is more difficult to get a clean shot. The S25 Ultra is doing a decent job, but it is lagging behind the Vivo. When it comes to the max zoom, the OnePlus and the Vivo can go up to 120 times. The Edge only goes up to 10 times, and the Ultra zoom is in similar range to the other two flagship phones. In terms of quality, the OnePlus is decent here. The Vivo is a little bit blurry, but the details are on point. The S25 Edge simply can't go that far, and the S25 Ultra's quality is not as great as the Vivo or even the OnePlus. By the time I finished the photos, the OnePlus was at 48%, the Vivo at 51%, the Galaxy Edge at 26%, and the Galaxy Ultra at 33%. I'm going to do another in-depth camera test soon, so subscribe to not miss that video. I went back home and put all the phones to upload the photos and videos to Google Cloud. The OnePlus and Vivo on this table are both the Chinese variants, so the OnePlus is running ColorOS, while the Vivo is running OriginOS, and the Galaxies are running One UI. In all three systems, you can drag the left side to access the notification center. The OnePlus and Vivo have a more similar approach to notifications, while Galaxy is a little bit different. Also, the quick settings are accessible by dragging the right side of the home screen. The OnePlus 13 and Vivo look very similar to each other, and it is kind of copied from Apple. The Galaxy keeps its identity, but it's also more similar to other skins these days with the transparent background in the quick settings. Another feature they all have now is a dynamic island. The OnePlus and Vivo have a dynamic island similar to the one we see on the Apple and iOS. It is a copy-paste kind of a situation. The Galaxy with One UI did it a bit smarter. They added something similar to the dynamic island but called it Now Bar, even though it behaves similarly. To drain the batteries to zero, I decided to connect all phones to each other using Google Meet. Right now, the phones are on Wi-Fi. It is obvious that the OnePlus and Vivo are going to win the battle. but it was predictable since they are using the new battery technology and have a massive 6000 mAh battery. The Galaxy Edge is doing better than I expected, and the Galaxy Ultra is a bit disappointing. I disconnected all phones from Wi-Fi and connected them to 5G. I also played a YouTube video stream on the side while all phones were still connected to the call. The Galaxy S25 Edge was the first phone to leave the chat. Considering it only has a 3900 mAh battery, it survived well. I even saw in multiple videos that the S25 Edge outperforms the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Finally, after 7 hours and 3 minutes of active screen on time, the Galaxy S25 Edge left the chat. The S25 Ultra had 10% more battery when this happened. Also, made sure all phones were running at the highest resolution. The S25 Ultra has a slightly larger screen, and that can potentially contribute to more power consumption. The S25 Ultra left the chat half an hour later after the S25 Edge at 7 hours and 34 minutes. Now the battle is between the Oneplus 13 and vivo X200 Ultra. The Oneplus 13 is definitely a very interesting phone as long as you're okay with the Hasselblad colors and the orange tint. It can be one of the best, if not the best value for money phones out there, especially if you buy it from these Chinese websites like I did and install the global ROM. The vivo X200 Ultra is amazing and I love using the phone, but it only has the Chinese ROM and there is no global variant. That said, it is insane that this one is even cheaper than the S25 Ultra if you import it. I would say the Vivo is the definition of an Ultra phone with proper specs. It does seem like the OnePlus 13 is going to lose the battle. To OnePlus' defense, I bought this phone 6 months ago, so it probably lost a few percent of its capacity already, even though it wasn't actively being used, while the Vivo is fresh. And finally, after 8 hours and 40 minutes, the OnePlus 13 went into essential mode, but I was not able to exit that mode, so it is as good as dead. The Vivo is going strong with a massive battery and the optimized software. I went 50 minutes longer, and after 8 hours and 55 minutes, almost an hour and a half more than the Galaxy, it finally left the chat. The OnePlus 13 overall is a very decent choice. The battery is close to excellent, the camera is decent for the price, it has a nice 12-bit panel, and it is priced very competitively. The vivo X200 Ultra is an excellent Ultra phone, but it only has a Chinese variant and not many people would go through the hassle of importing it. But you will love the camera if you do. The Galaxy S25 Edge battery is not the best and it only has a main camera. But to be honest, it really surprised me that it was able to keep up with the other phones. Also, the nice thing is that it does not bend and has a structural integrity. It is super light at only 163 grams, but the downside is the cost here and there and the price. The Galaxy S25 Ultra is the best all-arounder. It is not the best at anything, but it is a safe choice with long software support and after-sales support in most countries. Also, the S Pen is always a neat thing to have. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch the comparison of S25 versus iPhone 16 Pro versus Pixel 9 Pro and Xiaomi 15 next. Thanks for tuning in to Tecmo, and I will see you in the next one.